make a nice square box with your hands underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, making sure, just brought some stuffing from the garden, making sure that you've got a right angle here at the hip and a right angle here at the shoulders, and also spreading those fingers and thumbs far apart. And your spine, if you can see yourself in the mirror, absolutely perfect, but your spine should be in its neutral, natural curves. And we're going to start, as I always do, with some shoulder rolls. I really like this movement and this exercise when you're on all fours, because you've got that pressure through the hands into the floor. And you can feel every movement going on in the shoulders. And it's quite hard work. So I was going forwards, so I was bringing my shoulders from my hips forwards towards my ears, and I'm just allowing the rib cage, I'm not thinking about moving the rib cage, but the rib cage is just dropping down and lifting. I'm thinking about moving this circular bit here, that shoulder joint, shoulder socket if you like. And then let's change direction. So now I'm taking the shoulders up towards my ears and back towards my hips. Keeping the arms straight, not completely locked out if you've got hyperextended elbows, just slightly soften the elbows. And this is quite hard work, and it's getting me a little bit warmer. Let's try one side. So I'm going to keep the hand that's closest to the monitor, the screen, on the floor. I'm going to put the other hand in the small of my back. If that's too much for you, just touch your shoulder, your other shoulder maybe. And then try some singles. About 5 in each direction. And that really is quite hard work. Make sure you're breathing. And let's swap hands. So put the hand back underneath your shoulder. Don't bring it into the middle. Take that other hand to the side. That's a bit uncomfortable on my shoulder, not on that one, so I'm going to just touch my hand to my shoulder. And then circling it exactly the same way as we did. So really good to wake up all those muscles around the shoulder blades. Try and stay looking down so that you're not distorting your neck. Oh, I can't even change direction on this side. Try and go in both directions, and notice how slightly uncoordinated that is and a little bit more difficult. Let's just move the neck and stretch out the muscles at the back of the neck, and this whole, just being in this position, again, something that I really like, you're having to lift the back of the head and neck up. So we're preventing this forward head carriage, unless you let your head fall forwards, but if you let your head fall forwards, you've got your arms here, you're doing this forward head carriage, which we don't want. So you're bringing your head, back of the head and neck, back in line with the top of the spine there, the top of your shoulders. And that's a really good thing. And then I'm just going to lift my head up as much as I can, and I'm going to tilt. This is actually slightly odd. I'm imagining from above, so that's my head, I'm tilting, and my wrist is like my neck. Yeah, so I'm shortening one side and then the other. I'm trying not to rotate, and it's quite awkward. And now I'm going to just turn my head from side to side. So now I am properly rotating. Great, and then I'm just going to just roll those shoulders out again. That was quite strong on the shoulders. Let's mobilise the spine with spine circles, something that, again, which I would generally do in all my warm-ups. Let's take the rib cage to one side, up to the ceiling, over to the other side as far as you can, and allow it to drop down towards the floor. So sideways, up towards the ceiling, sideways and down. each direction. My hands, my arms and my legs are sort of creating like pillars for the spine to move around in between. I'm going to change direction, rib cage over to the other side, all the way up, and I feel like I'm moving my spine in this circular, I'm moving it in a circular way, almost like it's a skipping rope. So my head and my hips, or the arms and the legs, you could say, are someone standing there holding the ends of the skipping rope. So that's a vertical circle, we're going this way around. Let's take a horizontal circle. Feels very different, the spine's pretty much staying in its same shape, but now where I'm feeling some nice mobilising and just getting into the corners and the edges of everything is in my hands, my wrists, maybe shoulders a little bit, but I'm not feeling it too much in my shoulders, my knees, my shins, the front of my hips. Change direction. The point of this is to actually stress the wrists. Take your shoulders over your hands. So increasing our tolerance of being able to hold these positions. And essentially you're just holding your own body weight. But it's really important for every day. Wonderful. Okay, so another thing to think about, although we're on all fours, is my tissue box analogy. So I think about the shoulders and the hips being the four corners of a rectangular tissue box. When we're on all fours, we want all of those four corners to be parallel to the floor. So this is why it's quite nice to have your yoga mat, and imagine that the corners at the front of your yoga mat and then underneath your knees, everything is in that nice square position, it's all nice and even. And then from here, I'm going to bring my knees a tiny bit closer together. We're going to draw in one side. We're going to change the shape of our back and really round in. So I'm going to draw this knee in and try and take my head, my forehead towards that knee. I'm not holding on to the leg yet, but we are going to touch the leg in a moment. But I'm really drawing my belly button in, really as strong as I can, scooping under, tucking under with that pelvis, lifting the back up, drawing the abdominals in. Then I'm going to extend the leg and think about coming back to my tissue box. Then I'm going to reach the opposite arm away, so we're touching the floor, and then lift to the height of the body. So let's go from here, so all the way down. So we're going to do 5 of these on this same leg. So probably easy to do the leg that's closest to the screen. Well, that doesn't matter too much. So draw that knee in, scoop your tummy, try and get your forehead on your hands. Try not to change the position or exactly where you are when your other leg and your hands, and then extend away the foot, so the toes touching the floor, the fingertips are touching the floor, and then lift to the height of the body. Beautiful straight leg, arm up by the ear if you can get it. Think about your tissue box. So this hip will have a tendency to want to open out. Don't let that happen. Draw it away. And now come straight in from there and round everything in. And now I'm pulling this arm in. I'm not touching the leg, I'm just drawing it, trying to get into a really tight ball with my whole body. And then brush the floor, get your tissue box set up before you lift. 3 more, here we go. In all the way, brush the floor and lift. Think about the back of the head and neck. 2 more. I'm breathing out when I draw that knee in. This is the last one. We're going to hold the arm and the leg out this time. So breathing out, because there's no space for any air in that tummy and in those lungs. Holding it here. From here, holding this position, keep your tissue box square, circle the arm and the leg. Tennis ball size circle at your toes and your fingers, and then change direction. Strong, strong work. Whoo. And and touch the floor. Come back in, think about resetting your, how much did you have to reset to come back into your tissue box, and then just take the hips back on the heels, come onto your elbows and give those hands a much needed, especially the one that was on the floor, a much needed twiddle around. And at the same time, always multitasking, always moving through as we go. I'm just gently rocking from side to side, which feels quite nice on my lower back. Increasing my tolerance for being able to be in this position with the legs completely bent, the bottom back on the heel. Being able to move around within that position without any pain or discomfort. Great, you know what's going to happen now. We've got to do all of that on the other side. So we're on all fours. We're going to draw that knee in all the way on its own. Round the back, lift the upper back up, tuck the pelvis under, draw your abs in as tight as you possibly can. Extend that leg away. Straight leg, toes touching the floor. Reach the opposite hand forwards, fingertips touching the floor. Then lift to the height of the body with the arm and the leg. Tissue box is beautifully square. And then we're drawing in for 4 more. Draw in, round that back, trying not to lean. Set your tissue box, then lift up. Think of the back of the head and neck. Touching the floor before you lift. Remember that back hip, the hip of the leg that's going out to the side will want to lift up. I think this is the 4th one. And then we've got 1 more. Sorry if I've made you do an extra one. This is probably a weaker side anyway. So we're holding that there. Arm up by the ear if you can. Hips really level. You can look down and have a look at those hips. Make sure they're level. And then we're circling the arm and the leg from the shoulder and the hip. Not by bending the knee, not by twiddling at the wrist. The whole arm, the whole leg. This is what makes it so difficult. Change direction if you haven't already. Keep everything in the correct position. Whoo, touching the floor. Coming back in, just notice, was there a great big shift? Did you have to lift the hip to come back? Whew, and then we're here. Great, and actually we're going naturally quite into this next movement. So big toes together, knees nice and wide. Let's stretch the arms forwards and have your hands nice and wide. If this is too much for you, if you can't get your hips back on your heels and you need to be on your elbows, that's absolutely fine. Try and do this though if you can. And then with those arms nice and wide, we're just taking a sway from side to side. And we're breathing. You might like to turn your head so the nose leads as you go to one side, and then reverse it, the back of the head leads. Back of the head leads. This is weird but feels quite nice. Then we're going to walk both hands round towards the screen, towards the camera so that you can see. So we're here, reach the hands all the way around and you'll get a very strong stretch on the side that you've walked your hands away from. From there I want you to try and lift the chest up, the upper back. So this is a back pop. You're just lifting and lowering, about 5 of them. And also you'll be getting a very strong stretch, almost a burning stretch on that side seam of your torso. Sometimes you need to maybe wait until that eases off a little bit before you do the back pops. And then let's walk the hands back round to the other side. So away from the monitor now. Find that burning stretch down the side seam of your torso. Hold it, breathe, try and relax the head. And then about 5 back pops. Just lifting your upper back up towards the ceiling. Always looking to increase our range of movement but really it's about getting through to the very edges. Let's just finish off the rotation. So hands are wide again, and then let's thread the needle this time. So take the hand through and follow it with your head, rest your head on the side. Once you get that arm through, stretch both hands away a little bit more and just breathe. You might be comfortable with rolling across the shoulder a little bit. You might just want to stay there and breathe. Swapping over, stretch the other arm through, turn your head to follow it, rest your head down if you can, stretch both arms away when you've got into the position. Don't just settle for where you first go to. There's always a little bit more to be had. Always room for a little bit more space, a bit more improvement. Come back to the centre. Well done. We are going to come onto our elbows. Elbows are underneath the shoulders. So we've done rotation in a stretchy way. Let's do it now in a more exercising way, if you like, for stamina and endurance. So bring your elbows completely together. Make sure they're underneath your shoulders. Hopefully you're comfortable here. If you're not, you could just come into a higher hip position if you wanted to. So pretty much your back will be in its natural curves. But if you can, stay all the way back. So elbows underneath your shoulders. We're going to take a salute. So again, take the arm that's closest to the monitor so that when we take our rotation you can see me. Think about the tissue box of your shoulders, fingertips are touching your temples, and then we're rotating up towards the ceiling. I'm grimacing a bit because this is quite strong. It's quite tough. You don't really go very far. I'm trying to look up towards the ceiling past this elbow. It's not just flapping this elbow about. The elbow stays parallel or starts parallel to the floor. It lifts up as a whole unit. And then coming back to the centre, fingertips to temples, all the way up to the side, and we're going the other way. About 5 of these, noticing which was your tighter side. If you didn't notice which side was tighter, do a couple more on both sides. If you definitely realise you had a tighter side, usually it's your handedness side for this sort of thing. So for me it's my right side. Oh yeah. So if you definitely got a tighter side, do a few extra on that tighter side. Making sure you're breathing and as relaxed as possible all the way through. Notice I say as possible because that's quite strong. Fantastic. We're coming back onto all fours. So hands are underneath the knees. We're going to take some pelvic tilts. So tucking the pelvis under. Once the pelvis is tucked under, you're going to take your hips back towards your heels, but stay tucked under. It's a really nice stretch out in your lower back. Stay tucked under to come forwards, really continuing to stay forwards until you feel that the shoulders, the front of your shoulders are over your fingertips. Then release your lower back into a neutral position and just bend your arms to tuck your elbows in to take a little press up. So tucking under, stretch back and breathe. Stay tucked under until you pretty much come into your square box position. Then as you release that pelvis, you take your press up. It doesn't have to be very low. It's just a little bend, but it feels quite nice. Straightening the arms. As you're straightening the arms, tuck that pelvis under, take the hips back towards the heels. Staying tucked under and tuck those elbows in and lift. Let's take 2 more. Stretching out the lower back. Make sure you're spreading your fingers and your thumbs. We're doing quite a lot of work on the upper body today. This is good, but again, it's only your own body weight. I'm not asking you to throw 20 kilogram kettlebells around. I think that was the last one. Brilliant. Okay, good job. We are from here just moving into the legs a little bit. So curl your toes under from here, lift your hips up, push your chest back through your arms for a downward dog. You could keep your legs bent for the moment. Bring your shoulders over your hands again, lower your knees and relax. Go again. Curl the toes under, lift the hips up. You can keep the legs bent if you need to. I prefer it if you try and straighten the legs and try and flatten out that lower back. Bring the shoulders over and then lowering both knees with control at the same time. Notice this is all hanging forwards a little bit. So, lifting up, pushing the chest through your arms. It's a wonderful downward dog stretch. And we're switching on our core. So from here, if you can, walk your feet in towards each other. I call this padding through your feet. You're just going to swap over one, lifting one heel, lifting the other heel, and then walking the feet out again. Try and keep that head down. Try and not to lift your head and look up at the screen. It's just going to collapse the back of your neck. Take the feet wider again, so as wide as your yoga mat, slightly outside your shoulders. If you can, keeping the legs straight, take your hips over to one side. It will give you a very, very strong stretch at the back of that leg. And then come through the middle and swap to the other side. And breathe. Hips back in the middle. Bend your knees, bring your shoulders over, lower both knees with control. You will probably be glad to know that's the end of our all fours work. Give those wrists, again, a little bit more of a twiddle. Circle fingers, stretching far apart. Make your forearm get all warm and a little bit uncomfortable. Scrunch the fists, stretch them out, scrunch and stretch. Brilliant. Okay, we are going to lie on our backs. So we're going to start with some bridges, but let's come down into our base position to start with. So a really nice way to get down into your base position is to set your feet, toe heels on the same line, insteps nice and parallel, feet and knees in line with hips. If you can, take hold of the backs of your legs, scoot that tummy again. There's that movement we've already done a couple of times. Just need to move my notes over here more. I'm facing a different way to how I normally face, and it's slightly weird. So, rolling all the way down, and then just take a moment or two to settle yourself on the mat. So, you've already put the feet and the knees in line with your hips. Bring your feet quite close to your butt. Think about your pelvis, pubic bone, hip bones on the same plane. So my camera, my webcam especially, and even my phone, they're both quite a bit higher than me. If I was really down to the floor level, you'd really see that my pubic bone and my hip bones are on the same plane. But it probably looks like I'm a little bit tucked under at the moment. But let's just explore that tucking under movement. So this is pubic bone, hip bones on the same plane. So I've got quite a big curve in my lower back. There's quite a gap there. That's fine, that's my natural curve. We're all slightly different than in that way. And then I'm just going to lose that curve, scoop my tummy in, push my waistband into the mat, and then release back to neutral. So a plain pelvic tilt. I feel like I haven't actually done these for ages, just on their own. So we did it when we were on all fours. Tucking that pelvis under. What I want you to really think about here is lifting the pelvic floor. This lower abdomen should be really relaxed. It's relaxed, but it's sort of stretched out. I think James De Silva described it. They described it as like a smile. So from hip bone to hip bone is a smile, and then it's scooped. It's relaxed. That's actually a really nice analogy. And then when you're in a neutral almost, yeah, no, I won't go there. was going to say something which probably contradicts that. So tucking under, so I'm pushing that lower back in, making the lower back much lower, and then we've got this lovely scooped out smile across your lower abdomen. Okay, I need you to be able to circle your arms around if you can. Just going to come over a little bit. Yeah, so just check that you can circle your arms all the way around without hitting any furniture. It's not the end of the world if you can't, you can bend your arms, and let's take some bridges. So, mobilising the spine, articulating the spine, such an important movement. So tuck that pelvis under, push the waistband in, try and notice that nothing else has moved, and then switching the buttocks on, peel up through the spine, all the way up to the top. So your hips are really opened out, you're sending your knees towards your toes. Think of your knees being above your ankles, hips up nice and high. Let's just take a breath in at the top. Make sure the ribs are flat, relaxed, you're not overarching in that upper back, collarbone, nice and relaxed, and then reverse peel down. Work quite hard here to use the muscles at the front of the body to push the back of the body into the mat, and then unravel. And again, tuck the pelvis under, rolling all the way up, hold it there. Breath in and breath out to reverse peel down. So let's take the arms up and over as we lift those hips. So breath out, all the way to the floor behind you. Leave the arms there as you lengthen through that body, trying to send your pubic bone away from your fingertips. And then once the hips are back down, you're back in a neutral, bring the arms round by your side. So let's go up and over. So the arms are going up and over, reverse peel down through the spine and bring the arms round. Let's do 3 more. As we're coming down now, we're going to circle the arms round. So the arms are taking a circle at the same time. So all the way up. Notice whether you're lifting your chin when you lift those hips. I definitely tend to. Reverse peel down, almost like a sigh as you release. Breath out. Just hold it here a moment. Breath in, try and lengthen everything away. Maybe get those hips up a little bit higher. And breath out. Hold it here, breath in. And all the way up. Hold it here. Breath in, go a tiny bit higher if you can. Breath out. Last one. Soften the rib cage and releasing all the way back down. Good job. We are going to do some abdominal work. Just 5 of each of these exercises. We're going to build up from this position where you're going to have the hand at the back of the head to support the head initially. And you're going to lift the leg into a knee fold, roll across this shoulder. We're just going to work this crisscross line. It's just going to get harder as we go. So we're lifting up, so roll towards the monitor. We're staying on this one side, opposite elbow to knee, and place down. 4 more of those. Lifting up. I'm trying not to bring this knee in too far. I want my pelvis to stay in neutral, but I'm actively trying to lift and roll across more with that elbow. Maybe 1 more, slightly lost count. Trying to keep the pelvis still so that other hip will want to roll across. Same thing, as you come up, straighten the leg and lengthen the arm to touch your ankle if you can, and lower back down again. So we're lifting up. And in fact, I need to keep my leg a little bit, so I can bring my leg in all the way here, but then I can easily touch it. I want it to overreach a little bit, so keep the leg at 90, and then reaching past that ankle towards the opposite corner. This shoulder lifting up and rolling across the one that's on the floor is the important bit. 2 more, I do believe. And I'm obviously not putting my hand back behind my head, I'm just touching my fingertips to my temples. Last one, grand finale. We're going to lift up, straighten the other leg along the floor. I know this is getting a little bit necky. This is the last set. We're going to keep this leg and the arm straight. We're going to keep the other leg out along the floor. We're lowering and then we're lifting and lowering and lifting. Whew. There's definitely 3. I'm definitely counting them. 4 and 5. Brilliant, all on the other side. So, starting with the support of the head behind, the head with the hand behind the head. So, lifting up, don't bring that knee in too far. Try and roll across your shoulder. Keep the hips, the pelvis secure and grounded. No rocking and rolling from side to side. 1 more, I think, although I think I did an extra one again. We're coming up this time and now we're extending. Don't take the leg too far forwards just because you can, because also think about what's going to happen in your lower back when you do that, but try and reach past and just fingertips to temples as you come back down and lengthen. And we're there. How many is that? Let's make this the last one. This time, extending the leg up, reaching the arm up, straightening the other leg and way along the floor, lowering the arm, straight arm back down with a straight leg back down, and lifting the whole thing for 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. Last one. Brilliant. Okay, good job. Taking that whole body movement that we're already doing, we're going to take a double, actually this should have been before that last one, but never mind, a double crunch. So both ends crunching in, and then we're going to go into a star shape. I'm just going to move my mat over slightly. So star shape on your yoga mat, arms wide, legs wide, everything is here, so just take that position. And then we're going to draw the knees in, draw the elbows in, and come up into a really tight ball. So knees towards you. I'm hanging on to my knees for dear life. My lower back is rounded, my lower back is actually off the floor. I could take a little roll there. And then we're toes down, arms down, head down, and then stretching out. All opposite direction. So here's the star and a little ball. I think I tried to, I think when I've done this before, if you can, hang on to, so you can either hang on to your heels or just crunch your knees, put your knees in with your hands on top, and this is helping me to get up as high as I possibly can. Everything down and then stretch away and coming in, stretch away, 2 more and drawing in. When you're here, take a nice big deep breath out. When you're stretched out in that star position, take a big deep breath in. Last one. Good, stay in this tight ball. Roll over towards the screen and the monitor, lying on your side. Beautiful. Stretch the top arm and the top leg away. And now almost lift your rib cage up. Really go far away, and then from there you're just going to open out onto your back. So one arm and one leg are already stretched away. Stretch the other arm and leg away, back into that star, and then come in again. And squeezing all of that breath out. Roll away from the camera this time, onto the other side. Completely onto your side, in a tight, tight ball, and then stretch. Arm and the leg away in opposite direction. Try and lift your rib cage up towards the ceiling and then open out, roll out onto your back, straighten the other arm and leg away back into your star. Let's do one more each side. So coming in, really get rid of all that air, roll over onto your side, stretch away. See if you can just let that head roll over this time, and then stretch into your star. Last one, coming all the way in, rolling over onto the side, stretch the arm and the leg away, and breathe, and let your head be nice and heavy as you roll. Try not to crash when you land on your back. Stretch the arms and legs away, and then let's really stretch fingers and thumbs far apart, flex the feet, point the feet all the way through, opposite directions, hands and feet, and then relax. Wonderful. Rolling over onto your side. Great, so side lying work. I'm going to straighten up my mat this time. Makes more sense to do this way. So we're going to start today with our legs bent. So heels in line with the butt, underneath arms stretched away, and then just the palm up. Think a little bit about drawing that underneath shoulder down towards your hips if you can. So we're going to start with the just the heels squeezing together, and try and push your underneath leg, the leg that's in contact with the mat, try and push it into the floor a little bit as you just lift that top knee. But squeeze your heels together, and it's almost like you're trying to resist all the way up and all the way down. You can just lie here and be flapping the leg around, but you, as always with most Pilates exercise, you're never going to injure yourself, but there's a big difference between working the right muscles and working effectively as opposed to just going through the motions. Going through the motions just is a bit of a waste of time, really. So we're trying to fire up the back line of the body. You're trying to specifically fire up your buttock muscles by pushing the heels together and activating this underneath leg. That should all make a difference. My feet are relaxed, and it's almost like I've got a resistance band here. So lifting up is easy to feel the resistance because you're working against gravity. But when you're lowering, imagine you're actually pushing down on something. Great, now let's lift the whole leg as a mirror image of the underneath leg. So the knee and the foot are going to lift at the same time. Excellent, so hopefully you're feeling some work in this buttock. Great, let's straighten that leg. Keep the underneath leg just bent. Let's draw a figure of 8 lying on its side. The cross part of your figure of 8 is your straight line, your spine. So make sure you draw the figure of 8, the circle, equally forwards and backwards. And it's lying on its side. So seen from above, no, not really, but from here as I look down I can see my toes would be drawing the shape of a figure of 8. Now change the direction. That's the tough one. And absolutely focus more on the circle behind, the back circle. Good. Last one, we're going to flex that foot. You're going to turn the leg in. You're going to let the toe come down towards the floor on an angle, and you're going to reach back with the heel, leading with the heel. This is better with a band actually, but and I've just put my hand on my top hip to make sure it's staying absolutely still. Again, try and work that resistance. I'm starting to get some real shaking going on. Imagine you were pushing against a band. Must remember to do this in my next band class. Great, okay. You're going to roll onto your back. We're going to stretch out that side hip. So onto your back with the legs bent, cross the ankle of the leg that was just moving, the leg that was on top, cross it over your other knee. Now for me that's already feeling quite a strong stretch, and I'm just going to let my legs roll from side to side. If you're able to, take one hand through the gap between your legs, place the other hand, and then interlace your hands behind your knee, circling the foot that's in the air just to take our mind off of the stretch. So that knee should be out to the side and the one you're stretching, so I'm stretching my buttock that's furthest away from you in this figure of four stretch is what it's called. Whew, and that really is quite strong. Circling the foot in both directions, and then finishing off, taking hold of that foot, and this is still quite strong, still quite cramped up actually. If you can, keep that leg in the air. I'm hanging on to this leg, pulling the foot maybe down a little bit closer towards your torso, and now I'm keeping my legs in that position and circling them round. Ooh. Yeah. And then changing direction. So it's quite a nice massage on the lower back. And breathing. We're going to notice that on the other side, unfortunately, because we want to push down that leg. So let's swap sides. So palm is up, shoulders are down, heels are in line with your hips. If you want to, line yourself up on the back edge of your mat if you can. So we're pushing the leg that's underneath into the floor a little bit. We're really squeezing the heels together and then lifting that top knee without any change whatsoever in the hips or the body in general. Draw this top shoulder down. Try and resist all the way up and all the way down. It's very easy to just let that knee drop, especially if you're thinking about the next exercise. Good, let's lift and lower. Top leg in a mirror image. So the foot and the knee stay at the same height. They land on the lower leg at the same time. Try not to lift the knee higher and then drop the foot down. A whole different exercise which we're not doing today. Hips stay still. Your waist is lifted away from the floor. Top shoulder down, rib cage connected, hopefully starting to feel some work in the buttocks. My underneath side is finally relaxed now actually. Great, let's stretch that leg out, pointing the toes and draw your figure of 8. Especially focusing on the circle, the half of your figure of 8 that's behind your straight line. And changing direction if you can. Changing direction is always weird. We have a natural way for things like figure of 8s, and then we really have to think about it when we change direction, but it's really good for the brain. It stops us from getting stuck in the same old movement patterns all the time. Okay, starting to feel roughly the same as the other side. I'm going to flex the foot. I'm going to turn that leg in. So I'm trying to really feel like my heel is on top here. Keeping the hips still by keeping that hand there. We're just holding the hips still. Lower the toe towards the floor and then take it back and up towards the wall behind you, up towards the ceiling, maintaining that turn. Turned in, that rotation inwards. And it's the lifting up. The lowering of the toe towards the floor will be a release. The lifting up, maintaining that turn out will be quite strong. Imagine your legs are already tired, your muscles are already tired, so hopefully you won't be going too fast. But imagine you're resisting against a TheraBand. And I'm going to do one more. Woo. Wonderful. Lying on your backs. Ooh, let's stretch that out. So ankle across the other knee. And that's still quite strong, that's still quite cramped up for me, so I'm just going to let my legs roll from side to side. I'm going to breathe and let it release. If the muscles have cramped too much, you won't get an effective stretch. You need to let it release a little bit first. And this is my tighter side for my hips, so it's also feeling a little bit worse. Okay, I can just about lift that leg up now. Lifting the other leg up, one hand through the gap, the other hand goes to the outside. You interlace your hands behind your knee if you can. You rest your head down if you can. That might not be available to you. You might need to stay up here. You can also do this particular stretch on the wall or the settee or something. Put this foot flat. Actually, I'm a bit too close, but it would be there and just holding it there. So that stops you from having to lift your head and shoulders up. Obviously, if you're doing that, you can't circle the foot at the ankle. So this is preferable, but we're circling the foot at the ankle just to take our mind off of the stretch. Woo, and breathing. Great, I'm going to take hold of that foot, I'm going to draw that knee in a little bit more, and I'm going to circle the legs in this figure of 4 position. Changing direction, trying to work through the tightest part of the circle and resting down. And then anything else which you naturally feel like doing. I actually today want to carry on just rolling across those hips a little bit. That was tough work on the hips today. Great, we're going to finish off with some lovely prone work. So lying on your tummy. We're going to take some salutes. So legs are hip width apart. Maybe slightly wider actually, slightly turned out if that's comfortable. Push the pubic bone into the mat, connect the rib cage down. Let's start with palm on top of palm and then your forehead on the backs of your hands. And just relax there a moment. check, think about your tissue box. Shoulders and hips nice and square, in contact with the floor evenly, hopefully. And then we're just going to lift the back of the head and neck only, and then let the forehead hover back onto the hands. So no collapsing, just notice how far the head can go, or the head needs to go, until it becomes level with the top of your t-shirt. It's not very far. You don't need to lift your chin at all. My eye line is staying in exactly the same place. And actually I encourage you to close your eyes and just be aware of whether you're doing more than just lifting and lowering the head. Then let's keep the head up and just hold that there. Take your fingertips apart, your hands apart, by taking your elbows out to the side. And then we're just going to take some salutes. Have a little look if you're not sure what I mean. I'm lifting the whole hand and the elbow to fingertips to my temple, and then lowering, and then swapping sides. I'm not moving, I'm not lifting and lowering my back or my shoulders at all. Just lifting and lowering. Strong work. I'm actively pushing my pubic bone into the mat, keeping my rib cage connected to my hips. So an amount of singles, and then if you can, both arms, some doubles. Elbows and hands, and lower arm. Lift all at the same time, lower all at the same time. Holding it here, fingertips to temples. Just bring your elbows in towards your sides, keeping your hands in exactly the same shape. Open those elbows out again, fingertips back to temples, staying up if you can. 3 more. Elbows into your sides and open out. Elbows in and opening out. Elbows in, open out. 1 more, I lied. Elbows in and open out, and have a little collapse. Woo. Okay, last thing today. Yeah, let's bring the legs to parallel. So this is much more, this is single leg kick from classical Pilates. I'm going to put my hands underneath my hips, and I'm actually I'm making a little cup with my hands, or spatula as I sometimes call it, and I'm cupping my hip bones, and then I'm actively pushing my pubic bone and my hip bones into my hands, and my back is a little bit lifted, exactly where we just were. The legs need to be really parallel for this position, for this exercise, so no turn out. I really like to turn my legs out, but you can't do it turn down. It needs to be absolutely parallel. So 1 leg at a time. We're pointing, we're bending the knee, we're flexing, we're pointing, and we're lowering the leg, and then swapping sides. Point, flex, point, and lower. And the goal is to keep your hip bones equally weighted. I'm very tight at the front of my hips, so I struggle with this. I can feel my hips rocking and wanting to rock and roll from side to side. If you don't have any issues here, this probably won't feel that difficult. I also struggle with trying to keep the leg parallel. It wants to turn out. Flex, point and lower. But at the same time, while we're thinking about all of this stuff, we're getting a lovely bit of stamina in that upper body. And let's relax a moment. Come up onto all fours. Whew. Again, maybe some spine circles, whatever you naturally feel like doing. So all of the stuff we did earlier on in class, I feel like I just want to sort of revisit that. And then I'm going to finish off with some bear walks. So if bear walks don't suit you today and you've had enough being in that downward dog position, you can do the similar thing, hands and knees. And actually I would encourage you to try and do that. If you wanted to make it a little bit harder, lift your knees off. But that's significantly harder. Whereas I'm going to be in my downward dog position, keeping my legs and arms fairly straight. And I just want to roll through the feet, stretching, walking backwards, walking forwards. There's absolutely no right or wrong with this. Maybe have a little turn around. Now there's one we don't normally do. And then reverse. And then I'm going to go turn around to the other side. Cross those arms over. Maybe cross the legs over as you walk forwards. This is a move, and I like, what's nice about this is your hips rotate from side to side, and you get that nice bit of movement in the ankles. And then, when you're done, drop down onto your knees. Hopefully this is comfortable for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon.